my name's Roxy. I am the owner of Ethereal Persians Cattery. I breed and sell Persian kittens. Right now I have about 15 adults and a few kittens. Everybody in my house is raw fed, and I recommend that the owners continue raw feeding when they go home. I have been asked to make this video before, so this is why I'm making a video of how to prepare raw food for your cat. This is a balanced diet. The name of the recipe is called Black Cat's Recipe. It is featured on my website. I will add a link in the description of the video below. If you want to follow through with us, please do. Today I'm using pork as the protein source. You can use other animals. It doesn't have to be pig. You can use chicken, turkey, rabbit, beef, whatever you can get your hands on. As long as it is fresh, you can use it as part of this recipe. So I have pork tenderloin here. I already cut it up, and as you see here, it has a layer of fat. I like to remove some of that fat depending on the amount of food I make. If I make a lot of pork tenderloin, I'll remove more fat. If I make a little bit, then it'll be blended in really well, and you don't want to remove all the fat. If you are using chicken, it is recommended to take the skin off. If you're using beef, don't use a super fatty part of the beef, or it's going to give them a belly upset and they're going to end up vomiting. Turkey is not as easy to use because you can't grind the bones, and generally people don't just buy like turkey breasts. They end up buying like a whole turkey because it's the cheapest option, and then you have to cut it. So you can do turkey if you only have like 1 to 3 cats. It's perfect. For me, like 20 to 30 cats. I don't feed them turkey as often, but they do very much love it. I feed pork and chicken the most. They love pork, the taste of it. I find they crowd that plate sooner than they were to crowd the chicken plate. So I highly recommend, if you're going to use a few protein sources, the cheapest ones are going to be pork, chicken, and depending when you buy the turkey, and then beef. Rabbit is going to be more expensive. Venison is going to be more expensive. But to be honest, it's whatever fresh meat you can get your hands on. So you are going to need a meaty part of the animal, muscle part of the animal. Then you have to use liver. It's highly recommended. There are supplements you can use if you don't use liver, but we like to include organs. It's has more of the vitamin and mineral profile. You never really know if you're supplementing everything in the meat with the supplements that are recommended. So I just don't take the chance. I use the actual organ meat itself. And then there's heart. This is it's called clean heart. It's not a dirty heart. A dirty heart has a lot more fat. This heart is already been cut of most of the fat. It is used for the taurine. Using heart in the recipe is primarily to help heart function in your animal. And you can supplement with taurine. Like I just said with the liver, you can supplement vitamin, do you remember the vitamin?
A and D. Vitamin
A and D. So if you don't use liver. And then I personally like to use vegetables for the recipe. I use 5% of the total amount that I will be making. The recipe does not call for vegetables. I feel that is what the prey normally has in the gut and the stomach, like if they were to catch little birds or little mice. And just in case like they need it for some other bodily function, I will include the vegetables. It adds fiber. If you don't use vegetables, technically you're okay because the recipe calls for psyllium husk, which is just pure fiber, but I prefer to use vegetables. So I generally use things like carrots, broccoli, cabbage, not kale, cauliflower, green beans. There's a long list of vegetables that are safe for pets to eat. I would recommend you read them off Google. I'm not gonna like pick them off the top of my head. Just don't use purple cabbage. Is it purple cabbage? Yeah, just don't use purple cabbage. That made our cats vomit, and we ended up wasting like 300 pounds of food. Don't know why. No idea. I even Googled it. I'm like, why are my cats vomiting? You know, it was the same recipe. Everything stayed the same except we used purple cabbage that time, and that was the only thing different we did. They did not like it. So we have vitamins and minerals. We use salmon oil, kelp, psyllium husk, bone meal, gelatin, vitamin B, and vitamin E. For the vitamin B, it's vitamin B complex, okay? So for one batch of this recipe, which is the simplest breakdown I can do, you will be using, let me read it off in case you guys are wondering like how many teaspoons or tablespoons you have to use. So for one batch, you're going to be using 1.5 pounds of meat, half pound of heart, quarter pound of liver, 2 egg yolks, psyllium, 2 teaspoons. You're going to use 1 cup of water, 2 capsules of salmon oil, 1 teaspoon of kelp. We don't use dulse. We've never been able to source dulse. You're going to use 1 tablespoon of B complex, quarter teaspoon of vitamin E, 1 tablespoon of gelatin, 2 tablespoons of bone meal, half a tablespoon of taurine, and I use 2 ounces of vegetables. What? What do you want? Come here and say hi to Truffles. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? It'll be done in like, I don't know, half an hour. You gotta wait. She's pregnant. I don't know with how many. I'm so excited. She's doing like 3 weeks. So, and then the first thing you would have to do at home, of course, is to weigh everything, measure everything out, and lay it out. So I would start with the meat, the heart, and the liver. Then I would measure all of the solids, which is basically all the vitamins except the vitamin B complex, which is a liquid, and vitamin E. So these 2 plus the water are the only solids you use in the recipe. I am going to blend. I'm gonna blend everything today. I'm gonna grind everything today. I'm not going to be cutting anything by hand. I think that's just far too time consuming for the amount of cats I have. If you'd like to cut your food by hand, their food, then just make sure that it's in small, like gulp-sized bites so that they don't have to chew. A lot of the cats don't like chewing, and especially if they have a very squishy face, they will be very picky with their food. So just try to make it as easy for them to gulp. And not to mention, if they're super picky, then like maybe they only want to eat the liver during one sitting, you know, their food, or maybe they only want to eat the meat or the heart. And you really want them to eat everything together. You don't want to give them an option because that unbalances the diet. So with that said, I am going to grind everything and I will show you. This is the grinder that I use. It is a Sunmile Super Grinder. It's about $200. It is the cheapest grinder that I found that can grind bones. And I highly recommend a grinder that can grind bone because you can use it for leg quarters. Pretty much nothing else. But if you can use it for leg quarters, you don't have to use bone meal. And I always like to use the part of the animal that we should be using. If we're like, I'm not gonna grind cow bones. That's you don't, you know, I'm not an industrial, I don't have industrial equipment and stuff. So leg quarters, you can get a cheaper grinder, but I like this one. And you can get a more expensive grinder, it'll work just the same. So it is loud. We're probably gonna mute the video at this part, but let me show you. I don't think I cut up this. Did I cut up the heart enough? No, I did not cut up the heart enough. You do have to cut it up into a small enough size to fit the hole up here on the plate, which is about the size of this. So let me get a knife and a cutting board. We have the pork tenderloin, and let's put it up here. That's small enough. This is small enough. And this is honestly the only one with fat that I'm using today. All of the rest don't have fat, so if they all were to have this much amount, like this amount of fat, I would probably cut off a lot of the fat. So, alrighty. And then hair, gotta get the hair off everything because with a bunch of cats running around, there's always hair everywhere. And then you cut up the heart. Here. Gonna cut up the liver. The liver's super slimy. Not really, but it's slimier than the rest. If it's really, really slimy, it probably means it went bad. So don't use super slimy liver. And okay. So I'm gonna take a water break and I'll be back. I'm back. Okay, so let's grind this up. Maybe I won't like mute it so you can hear how loud it is. It is a bit loud. And can't grind it up if it's like not plugged in. Oh yeah, it has a little like hiding place for its cord, so I always forget it's off. Not plugged in. There you go. And now we grind things. Kidding. I forgot to tell you guys something. While you guys grind, make sure to put in the salmon capsule so you don't have to open them by hand. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck with a little pin needle and squeezing the salmon into the food. You can just grind it up along with it. Okay, let's start again for real this time. Okay, it's done. So grinded the salmon capsules and the vegetables along with it. And it creates this wonderful consistency that they can go super easily. It's not paste. If you blend their food, it becomes paste, especially the liver. And I have found by experience that they don't like pasty food. And even when it freezes and it thaws, like it still doesn't keep shape. After this freezes and it thaws, it becomes a little bit thicker even because the gelatin congeals everything together. So I am going to go ahead and just, I think, move this out of the way to show you how to do the liquid portion, because there is a process to mixing the vitamins and minerals before you pour it into the meat. So we set that aside for a minute. We make sure we have everything else pre-measured. And I am going to be mixing in this bowl right here. So here is our water. That's generally the first thing I put. And Jason's getting me the eggs. We have 2 eggs. We need to open it up and use only the egg yolks, not the egg whites. You can buy just egg yolks if you don't want to like open it up, but I mean, it's pretty easy for a few amount of cats. Like we've had batches where we've had to open up like 240 eggs and I'm like, no, it takes like a good hour, 2 hours almost. And we usually make Julian do it, our 12-year-old, because we're doing other things. But anyways, so just get the egg yolks out. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna go ahead and just toss the egg yolks in with the water. It's generally the second thing I put in there. Can you get me a paper towel for when I'm done, please? Make a mess. I have not found a very great way to do this without making a mess. So we have our yolks. Alrighty, perfect. I like to buy brown eggs. I like to buy eggs that are not battery caged hens. I just don't like supporting factory farms. So I usually buy free range eggs, and they're supposed to have a better like nutrient profile anyways. And biotin and like, I think it's called collagen. Egg yolks are used for, here, let me give you this. They're used for fur and skin, to promote fur and skin, brain function, and eye function. So you can blend in everything else next except the gelatin. It is super duper important that you do not add the gelatin until the very end. And as you are adding it, you have to mix it at the same time, because otherwise it'll form these little balls of like nothing but pure gelatin in the food. And one, it makes them puke if they eat nothing but gelatin. And it doesn't serve its purpose. It doesn't congeal as it's supposed to if it sticks to itself and not the rest of the food. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pour. So here is the kelp. Kelp is, what is it, iodine?
I believe so.
Yeah, and then psyllium husk, which is fiber. We have bone meal, which is one to make sure they don't get diarrhea from eating the food, and it's calcium, so everything that calcium is used for in the body primarily. And we have liquid vitamin E, apparently a new bottle. And we are going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of vitamin E. And I don't have a 1/4 teaspoon. I have half a teaspoon. Who has a 1/4 teaspoon? This is awesome. Okay. And you're gonna have to go searching. So. Alrighty. Alrighty, that is a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm gonna do B complex next. Mix, and I need 1 tablespoon. Alrighty, so 1 tablespoon of B complex. That's like UPS driver is out there. The vitamin B complex is what gives it a very distinguishable yellow color. It's orangey yellow color to the food. You'll know what I mean when you make it, or when I show you the end product here. Hopefully you'll see it too. So this is taurine. I used the rest of the bag in the last batch we made, and then I tossed it out and forgot I needed it for this video. So there's just a little bit of taurine here, not featured on the counter. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mix this, and then I will add the gelatin as I mix it. But first I'm gonna mix it thoroughly. Smells pretty good, actually. And when it's done, it smells pretty sweet, like when it's mixed with the meat and everything. So it's pretty bubbly. That's okay. I am going to start and mix and do this at the same time for the gelatin. That was a success. There are no lumps in there. You will be able to tell when there are lumps in your liquid when you mix it because they'll be clear. You'll be able to know. And I am dripping liquid on the counter. Okay, so if you are doing a lot of food, if you have a lot of cats, if you're a cattery, you might want to get the help of a second person to help you mix, you know, to pour in the gelatin while they mix. We use a concrete mixer when we mix our 200 to 400 pounds of food. That's generally how much we make in one batch. And we need the help of more than one person. So if you have a lot of cats, nominate someone, okay? So now I'm going to mix this together and that'll pretty much be it for the raw feeding. You mix it, you store it in little containers, however many you think they'll eat within no more than 3 days. You don't want to keep raw food thawed in the fridge for longer than 3 days. So whatever size container you need for the amount of cats you have, and then you freeze it. You don't want to store it in the fridge. You don't want to store anything thawed. You want to take it out every day and thaw it. Or you can leave it in the fridge for up to 3 days thawed, and that's the rule of thumb. It won't spoil in that amount of time. If you are concerned or questioning it, smell it and look at it. Meat tends to turn brown when it starts spoiling, and it'll have a very distinguishable smell, and if you don't have a good sense of smell, just ask somebody. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this. You see how yellow that is? That's totally normal. Totally normal, and I need a spatula. Duck, get it? It's like ducking under the camera to get the spatula, because I forgot about it. Thank you, Bunny. He's trying to stay out of the field of the camera. Can you tell he's not saying anything? Like, you're welcome.
I'm not here.
Alright. Anyways, it's pretty good. Okay, so like I said, you can use one of these little things. We use a concrete mixer. We used to do it by hand. It was very cold and just not good. And then we got super dirty. So let's see if this works. I haven't mixed this small amount of food in a very long time. Yeah, this works just fine. That is it, and I'm not gonna waste the food on these little, whatever this is called. I have any idea what this is called. Mixing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
It escapes me.
Okay. So, anyways, while I play with this, maybe we'll fast forward. I'm gonna leave it. Okay. I am going to come up very close to the camera and show you what this looks like. Okay? Now that it is done. So. Let me not spill it on your head. You see that? Everything is perfectly blended. If you honestly look really closely, you might even be able to see some like carrot bits or broccoli bits or vegetable bits. That is normal. That is good. So I am going to store these, or this. To be honest, this is like one feeding for my cats. This is like a third half feedings for my gang of cats for one day. So I'm not gonna freeze it. I'm just gonna put it in these Tupperwares and put it in the fridge for later tonight. But for you, definitely make sure to use smaller Tupperwares appropriately as you need for at most 3 days. All right, so you put them in Tupperwares and you freeze them. I only need one of these. We have 3 deep freezers out back. I think it's 21 cubic foot was the last one we bought. We have 2 big ones and we have 1 little one. So that is done. Okay, what do you think? As far as advice for raw feeding, it's pretty simple. You can probably make a month's worth of food in 2 to 4 hours, depending on how many protein sources you use. I definitely highly recommend to vary the protein sources. It is not necessarily a very balanced diet if you only ever feed chicken, for example, or I only ever feed pork. We generally feed pork about 3-4 days a week, and then chicken like 2 days a week, and then we vary between beef and turkey. So sometimes we have rabbit, sometimes like if we go hunting, you know, venison. It really depends on what you have. So just make sure that you use fresh meat, you vary the protein sources, you make sure that you don't leave it down for too long. Put it down cold. Big, I almost forgot to tell you that. Make sure when you put it on the floor, on the ground for your cats to eat, that it is cold. You never want to microwave, you never want to cook it, you never want to just leave it on the counter for it to become room temp. You want to make sure that it is cold. It sits the best when it is cold, I found. And for an adult cat, usually it's like 2 to 3% their body weight. For a kitten, depending on the life stage, it tends to be about 5% their body weight that you want to be feeding. For a kitten, at least 3 times a day. For an adult, twice a day. For a kitten, I generally don't follow the 5% body weight rule. I just feed them as much as they want to eat 3 times a day. If you feed them twice a day for a kitten, sometimes they'll be so hungry in like that in-between time that they will overeat and they will puke. So there's a lot of little things to consider that I've learned through experience and being a vet tech and all that stuff. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer. And I think that's pretty much everything. Thank you for watching. I will try to continue making videos as requested. If you have any requests, also leave it in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Bye.